Hello guys and welcome to the League of Europe Division 3 podcast with myself, Ivor Bryn Mike, and I'm joined here today by Wave. How's it going, Matt?
I'm doing alright. How are you doing, mate?
I am not excited to talk about this one, just because of my race in general, but we'll get on to that in a minute. I mean, Bahrain was a fantastic race looking back on the stream. I know you was watching it live.
It was a great race. Plenty of stuff going on throughout the whole thing, and there was constant fighting at the front and plenty of fights middle and back as well. So all makings of a good race.
Yeah, so we gotta start off with Quali, the reserve silent popped it on pole with a soft tire. So interesting that he went straight for the softs instead of even running the mediums or hards.
Oh, obviously he wanted to see what he could do with pole position. Maybe he was thinking he could get away with running the softs a bit more than you can at Bahrain. Obviously, we won't know, we aren't him.
Yep, I mean, it was a good introduction for him. A very good introduction.
Yeah,
come in and put it on pole. Yeah. And after silent, there was a very close battle for second, down to I think it was 7th or 8th, something like that.
So 2nd to 8th were split by 4 tenths.
Yeah, I believe James managed to get 2 tenths clear of third on James. The mediums, and then Adri pipped third from me, and I think it was Mr. Router in 5th ahead of MCR and LOE Nico, my teammate.
That's all right, except that Nico was ahead of MCR.
Yeah, I didn't say Nico was behind MCR. I said Router pipped ahead of those two.
Yeah, but it's the order you said it, and it's wrong.
Yeah, so qualifying was very interesting, very competitive. Heated was not far off MCR and Nico. I know you're going to bring it up saying it's the wrong order again, but he was very close as well.
Yeah, he was about half a tenth behind them there, so.
And also we had the return of Maka.
Yeah, we did. So probably not the return he was hoping for.
I mean, first race back, he was probably just feeling out the pace now, feeling out the cars, getting back to grips with everything again.
Probably, but I mean, you'd always want to do as well as possible, even if it is before you're used to actually playing the game yet.
Yep, and what's called LFC. I believe LFC absolutely loves Bahrain as well, and qualified in 11th, I believe he was.
Yes, he did qualify 11th, and I don't actually know if he loves Bahrain or not, but he's fairly quick.
So obviously that was qualifying. It was a very tight fight from 2nd down to 8th. Silent taking the pole on his debut, fantastic for him. And I guess now we gotta talk about the bottle.
Is that just what you're going to refer to this race as?
I am going to refer this race, every incident involving me, I'm referring it as the bottle. The bottle is out. The milkman has delivered the bottle. So, right. Initially, I got off to a great start. I think it was 3 wide momentarily with me, James and Adri on the run down to turn 1. Unfortunately, I could not see the racing line, and I didn't have a braking point on the right hand side of the track. I only had braking points on the left hand side, where obviously the racing line is, and I couldn't see it. I tried to use James as a reference when to brake. I guess just a little bit late on the brakes. I knew I wasn't making the corner. I knew if I stayed on the line I was going to hit silent. Didn't want to do that. So I completely cut turn 1 to go well off, stay out of his way, and picked up a 5-second time penalty. And I believe Adri also had a bit of a torrid start, because he dropped down a few places behind the likes of Nico, MCR. I believe he dropped down behind Jasper as well, who had a fantastic start.
Yes, and then he was battling with Mr. Wooster after that as well.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Adri, but I did see back when I watched the stream back, they did drop down a few positions. Obviously,
just looking,
it wasn't as bad as...
It doesn't really show what happens to him, I don't think.
Right, so
But
after
then
that
I
we
think
had...
another thing that we'll have to talk about there is the fact that Mark was disconnected for the start.
Yes, he was. I think he reconnected around about lap... Was it lap 2 or lap 3?
Something like that, yeah, but for saying that he had to... his start was really done by the AI, he didn't drop down as far as you'd expect, so I guess that's something that he can be sort of thankful for.
Yeah, I believe when he managed to get reconnected, he was in 17th place. Which, you know, it's not bad for Marker. I mean, when you get disconnected, you expect to be like last by about 10 seconds. So I think
Or in
Marker
the wall
got...
with 7 time penalties.
Yeah, I think Marker got a little bit fortunate there with the AI. But yeah, you know, the start, there was a few people dropping positions, myself, Mr. Router, and Adri. And the big winners were Nico, MCR, and Jasper.
Oh, and there was also Ghost Recon in the first lap, made up 7 places, from 17th to 10th.
Yeah, I've noticed that about Ghost. He has fantastic first lap pace, because he did the same in Hungary, if I remember correctly.
Possibly, my memory doesn't go back that far.
Mine does. Mine does. It's playing Sudoku and crosswords. That's what it is. Right. So that one was a bit of a 2-horse race, and you saw James and Silent start to pull away from Nico MCR. You had Adri trying to battle his way back up the field. You had me that went all the way down to 13th, I think I was, and I was starting to slowly claw the way back. And I think the next topic we got to talk about was a collision between Ryan B and a Lady.
I can't remember when that was. So.
Well, from what I'm thinking anyway, I think because there was damage on all 3, those 2, as well as Ghost Recon as well, who had no wing. I'm assuming that there was a collision. We didn't see it on stream, but I'm assuming that there was a slight collision. Maybe they went side by side into turn 4, got their wheels locked together, and both of them kind of went into the wall or something.
Well, looking at how they just suddenly dropped back, that would make sense. That would be both somehow spun out at the same time without crashing into each other, which is slightly more impressive.
I think Ghost got collected with them, which was an interesting one. And I think after that, I think the next incident was I think it was me actually, when we were making the first round of pit stops.
Just quickly clicking through the stream, see if I can see anything that doesn't look like it, other than, like you said, you being a bottle job.
Yes, this was a bottle job part 2. There is a trilogy in the bottle jobs for me, but this is the bottle job part 2, the return of the bottle. And I just lost the back end through turn 11, went straight into the wall into turn 12 and just lost my front wing. I was pitting that lap anyway, so it was unfortunate, but I did lose all the progress I made. I managed to get back up into 6th. Was feeling good, catching Mr. Router as well. And then I just lost the back end and just went into the wall. And then the magical thing happened. It was incredible. The 5-second time penalty that I got for cutting the corner at turn 1 to avoid Silent turned into a 5-second stop go. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
It's always interesting to see magic at work.
Yeah, Codemaster's done a Houdini on me. A Houdini switch. Also, there is another point as well that LFC managed to pick up a 5-second pen as well for a collision that I don't think really deserved a 5-second pen. I think Jasper went into the back of me and kind of slowed down, and LFC got caught up in Jasper's little accident on the exit of turn 4,
Yeah,
and he got a 5-second
it's
penalty for it.
It's the one where Jasper spun out across the front of him, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there wasn't really anything LFC could do to avoid that.
Nah, I think LFC got very hard done by that.
And that's what racing's like sometimes. You just have to deal with it and move on.
Yep, and I do believe that that really hurt LFC, because I mean, he was doing incredible. He was keeping with Silent in at the end of his first stint, and he was keeping with Silent. He was about 2 seconds back, but because of that 5-second stop go, he ended up dropping further positions and really spent a lot of time struggling to get back up to where he ended up finishing the race. As what happened to me.
He had started on the hard tyres as well, so it was looking like it could be a really good race for LFC.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel bad for LFC because I do think he could have been there fighting with Silent, and if there was more battles going on at the top end, which we'll get onto in a minute, but if there was more battles going on at the top end, we might have seen LFC and Silent, you know, just kind of get into that fight, which would have been interesting.
Yeah, it's always nice to see more people fighting for a lead. Makes for a much more interesting race to watch, even if it makes it incredibly stressful to drive.
Yes, and moving on to, I think the next incident was all at the top end with James and Adri battling it out tooth and nail. Oh, actually, speaking of Adri, I think I've got to commend this. His overcut strategy on Nico was fantastic.
Well, and Adri's usually shown that, in terms of strategy at least, that he can got a good head on his shoulders for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he done an incredible job to get out ahead of Nico, and you know, to really start to close in the gap to James in first. And obviously after LFC and Silent made their second pit stops, that turned into the battle for the lead, and there was a lot of squeezing going on between those two.
Yeah, there was a lot, but as they were both sort of doing it, I see it as fair game.
I mean, it was fair game. They weren't really forcing each other off the track or anything. It was very hard racing. Hard but fair.
Yeah, it was right on the line. great racing to watch. Maybe a bit frustrating for ad racing, he feels a bit hard done by it, but that happens.
Yep,
In
and
hard racing, in a
all
battle,
that
there's
battling.
always going to be a loser.
Yep, and I mean, I think they were kind of even on battles won and lost. Really, when you think of the grand scheme of things, and obviously with them battling as hard as they did, it did bring Nico and MCR back into the contention for the win. With around about 8 laps to go, I think they were all within a second of each other. All had a bit of a DRS stream on each other.
Yeah, about that.
And you had Silent then that was... He was closing in, but not a huge amount, if I remember.
I'm just looking at, with 5 laps left to go, Silent was still 6.5 seconds off that battle. I mean, he was flying, but it just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, and that was unfortunate for Silent, because he was going very well, but you know, you can't knock a 5th place on your debut. I mean, you got a pole position, you done the 2-stop strategy and still got 5th. So, you know, commiserations for, you know, Silent for not being able to get into that battle towards the end of the race, but still a fantastic drive on his debut.
Yeah, no one's ever going to really complain about coming 5th on a debut. I mean, yes, he could have possibly done a bit better, but it's still a great race to show what he's capable of.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I had a lag issue, so I had to cut the recording just a little bit. If you watched the D2 podcast yesterday, you saw that I lagged out of the party. But you know, picking up from where we left off, I'll edit it all together later. I was talking about the retirements, and I don't know what happened to Smitsky or Dave, and I'm not sure what happened to Maka as well. I think Maka just had enough for that day, but not sure what happened to the other two.
I'm looking at the chat of the stream. It looks like Smitsky might have actually been taken out by lag from Ghost Recon. I'm just looking here, he's complaining about getting taken off 2 times from lag, so...
So that might be an issue there. So that's unfortunate for Smitsky, and yeah, it's unfortunate. I hope he goes better in tonight's race. But I think just to get out of the way, before we actually get into the big battle that was for the win, I'll just get my DNF out of the way. It was the bottle job part 3, the Revenge of the Bottle. Right, it was to complete the trilogy. I did exactly the same thing I done on my second bottle. Lost it in turn 11 again, but this time I DNF'd from it. Which, it gave Ghost Recon his first points.
That's something at least.
He commentator cursed me in the party. He actually did. I was in the party with him, literally talking to him. I was like, I was in, I think, P9 at the time, trying to push to get a 3-second gap to Jasper and Leddy, who were behind me, chasing me down. And he was saying, I'm 13th, if one more person DNFs, I get points. As he says that, bang, into the wall. Which was fantastic, yo. Commentator cursed me. Cheers, Ghost. But yeah, that's what happened to me. That's how I DNF'd on the final lap. But
there's also Dave DNF'd as well on lap 25. That looks like.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Dave. I mean, Dave's not having a good time at the moment, is he? He does have a tendency to DNF in a lot of races.
That might just come down to not fully finding his feet on the game or something like that.
Right, I think now we have to talk about the insane four-way scrap for the win between James in the Haas, Adri in the Renault, LOE Nico in the Red Bull, and MCR in the McLaren. Watching it back was insane, but you was there live, so let me know what your thoughts on it was.
I mean, it's always fun to watch four people giving it everything they've got right at the front of the field, seeing which one of them's going to come out on top. I mean, it's a nice long battle that they were having as well. Lasted, pretty much 7 or 8 laps, something like that.
Yeah, and not gonna lie, I mean, the move that LOE Nico done to get past Adri was a very cheeky little move. You know, to get side by side with him into turn 2 and be able to get past, which obviously slowed Adri down to allow MCR to get past into turn 4. It was a very cheeky move.
Yeah, it was cheeky, but it's really well executed as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And then obviously then Nico tried to take James, and I believe a little bit of contact was made, a little bit of wheel banging or something, and MCR managed to get past Nico momentarily, but I think then he dropped back into 4th.
I'm just watching that bit back.
I think it was either lap 28 or 29, one of them.
Oh yeah, MCR did eventually drop back. On the very last lap he dropped back to 4th.
Yeah, and it was insane to watch, and you know, congratulations to James on the win as well. He drove very, very well. You know, his battling was hard, but it was fair. You know, a little bit of wheel banging on occasions with Adri, but that's going to happen when you're racing wheel to wheel, driving as hard as possible like these two are known to do.
No, I don't think James actually put a foot wrong throughout that whole race, so...
Nah, like I said, I think it was just a little bit of wheel banging here and there when they were side by side at the turn 1 and turn 2, but that's always going to happen in those corners.
Yeah. And getting towards the end of the race, everyone's going to be battling a bit harder, trying to make up positions, so...
Especially considering none of them had penalties.
Yeah.
Right, so the podium, if I remember correctly, was James winning for the 2nd time this season, so he gets his 2nd win. And Nico, who wasn't there in Hungary, but has a 100% podium finishing record at the moment with the 2nd place, and Adri, who was looking set for a win in Hungary, they're battling with MCR. He finally gets that podium.
Yeah, and then they had MCR only 3 tenths off the back of Adri, so...
And then you had Silent then about 2.5 seconds off that battle at the end.
I was thinking what would have taken was one small mistake for one of those podium guys, and MCR would have jumped up instead of them.
Yep. And I believe Mr. Router was 6th and LFC 7th, if I remember correctly, or...
Heated came 6th, LFC 7th, and Mr. Router was in 8th.
Oh, I remember now. Mr. Router had a penalty, so he dropped down behind LFC.
Yeah.
Right. Right, I got it. I'm on board. I'm there. Right, so a racer that went under the radar as well was Heated, because he
Yeah.
did spin it in the double right-hander. Was able to come back and get sixth, so fantastic job there from Heated.
Yeah, that's sort of what you expect from here. He's shown time and time again that he's got quite a bit of pace when he's on it. I mean, he's not always
Well, he's
showing that
consistent
pace,
as well.
but yeah.
Right, so I think that does it for rounding up Bahrain. So I don't think there's anything else that needs to be talked about. There are no steward reports that we know of. We haven't seen anything, so I think everything is all good. And I don't know, all I gotta say, it was a fantastic race. And even though I done the trilogy of the bottles, I very much enjoyed that race. Just with the battling and the overtaking I was able to do to get back up, to drop back, to get back up, the bonnet.
Yeah, it was a great race to watch as well, so no complaining from spectator side of things either.
Well, I'm glad it was a fantastic race, and as we go in now to China, it's also looking like it could be a bit of a cracker.
Yeah. And China usually gives you quite good races. They're not always the best, but there's often quite a lot of battling going on.
I will say this though, out of the 9 possible people that we could have on the podiums, D3 so far has had 7 out of 9 different podium finishers.
That just shows how competitive D3 is.
Yep, the only 2 to be on the podium twice is Eloise, Nico and James.
James, with both of his podiums being wins, quite impressive.
And pretty much everyone in the top, well, yeah, every single person in the top 7 has been on the podium, which is fantastic to see as well.
Yeah, it's going to make for interesting championship fight moving forwards. Everyone's entirely capable of getting podiums.
And now we go into China a little bit on the unknown side of what to expect. I mean, there are a few people that we haven't really seen the pace of yet, so we can't really call it, but you gotta think that they're gonna be up there in some way or other. It's like James, MCR and Adri. Haven't seen the pace of them 3 yet, but I know that they're quick enough to be up there battling at the top end.
Yeah, well, I think that pretty much all the drivers still have a lot more to show than what they have so far.
Right, so predictions. What do you think is going to happen in China? Who do you think is going to be on pole? Who do you think is going to win it? Be on the podium? What do you reckon?
Well, pole's a difficult one because that entirely depends on what strategy people go for. Because if anyone decides to go on the soft tyres, they'll get pole. But that's not necessarily the best strategy to go for the race.
Yeah, that's fair. But who do you reckon for the podium?
Podium, not too sure, but I'm expecting Adri to do quite well, so I'll say him for the win.
Okay.
And I think I'll say Heated for second, and James for third.
Interesting. Right,
go
on, what was you going to say?
No, I was just going to ask you were going to say for your podium.
Right, It's going to be interesting because, like I said, I haven't seen the race pace of Aldry, James, or MCR yet. But I know from the practice races that I've done personally that I've generally had a bit more pace than Eloise, Nico, and he did as well. So if all goes to plan, I think I can get a podium. But it's China. It's never gonna all go to plan. So I tell you what, I think
probably gonna rain.
I really don't want it to rain. I really don't want it to rain.
Rain makes races better.
Yeah, but I really don't want it to rain. I wouldn't mind a bit of changeable conditions just to spice things up strategy-wise. But I don't really want it to rain. But yeah, my prediction for a podium, I think MCR for the win. This is gonna be... It's gonna be a bit of a controversial call, but I saw a league race that Aledi done recently, and he has fantastic pace, so I'm going Aledi for a podium. I think he'll have the pace to get on the podium, and just because I won the podium that bad, I'm going to say I'm on the podium as well.
In my experience, you should never predict yourself to do well in a race.
Hey, look, it worked for Mark. It worked for Mark, so I gotta go for it.
But that was a fairly exceptional circumstance.
Mark called me the Div 3 version of him. I've got to back that up by predicting myself to get on the podium. But yeah,
I
that's...
think when you're saying that, it's just more calling you a bit of a bottle job than anything else.
I mean, I only bottled Bahrain. I didn't really bottle Hungary.
Yeah, but you've not been showing the pace that you should be.
Yeah, I'm more of a time trial hero at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I did say I did not like Bahrain, and I did say before the race it was a write-off race for me. So even though I did have a bit of pace at Bahrain, I knew it was going to be difficult for me to actually get anything out of that race. So yeah, and all the bottles just added on to the fact that it was a write-off race. But China, I do enjoy a bit of China, so we'll see what happens. But like I said, I haven't seen the pace of a few guys. I know Aledi is pretty quick after watching a league race that he done, so he could be a dark horse to get on the podium. And obviously, you got guys like he did, Smitsky, Eloise, Nico, who will be there to actually take advantage of any mistakes made by anyone else, and will be there to capitalize on anything.
And I think if you're going to make a list of everyone that's capable of a podium, we're just going to end up listing out everyone in the division. So
I mean, Ibo for the win. Ibo for the win.
There'd be some scenes if that happened.
I mean, I think if Ibo wins, I think that everyone else should just DNF the rest of the season and give Ibo the championship.
I think if Ibo wins, he should just get the championship on the spot.
I agree with that 100%. If Ibo wins, Starja and Sarja must be teammates in Div 2. Right, I don't think there's anything else really left to talk about now, is there?
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining the Div 3 podcast, and you can join us tonight at 6:20, and we hope to give you a cracking show and a cracking race. So until then, guys, have a good one.